Today's first flight was just a test of a path. Path is one of the standard mission commands that Dronelink has. Now I kind of did a stress test on a path because I gave it 50 waypoints. You can see them here above the property. Let's see if we can even make heads or tails of this. There we go. So I take off right here behind the house. This is what they call an approach. I didn't put it in. I just put the path in. Nothing. My takeoff point and information with that, but that was it. So this is 130 feet above that. It was 150 feet for the flight itself. And then I started drawing a path from there. Over here's A, waypoint A. Here's B, C. Whoops, I just moved it. C, D, E, F, G. G has a sharp turn on it. So does H, I, J. There's 3 sharp turns in there. Just see how I did. K, also a sharp turn. L, M, N, O, P. Oops. So Q and R are here. S, T, U, V, W, X. Y's over here. Z, and then after you've used up Z, it starts over at AA. So AA, AB, AC, AD, AE, AF, AG, AH, AJ. Oh, that's AI. There's AJ. I can't see. AK, AL, AM, AN, AO, AP, AQ, AR. Got a little swirl right in there. AS, AT. Oops, where's A? AU is there. AV. Oops. AW, and finally AX. And then from AX right here, it'll do a return to home. Near where I started. So basically, it was nothing but a path. Everything else was generated. There was an approach generated by the software. I didn't put one in. I just started a new flight. Told it where my takeoff point was. Ask for a path. New component. Path. Right here. Here's a start of another path. Just like that, and drew out that path. So it said that that would take almost 14 minutes. What I did is I kind of shot for 1 mile of distance and one battery. If I went much above 1.2, 1.5 miles, I got into a second battery. And I think this program's being kind of conservative on battery. I'm not sure. You know, I'll probably fly it at some point and let it fail safe on battery just to see what the program, how the program handles it. But anyway, let's go fly this mission. Oh, by the way, in the path itself, it created an approach at 1:30. I didn't set this point of interest. It did for some reason. But you see, I don't really the approach 130 feet from the takeoff location. So that may be different elevations out here where the hill comes up. And I did set on channel 1 a minus 35 degree gimbal orientation, and that didn't really work. My drone may be a little old. I'm not sure. I'm still figuring all this out. In the 50 waypoints, there ain't much you can do with waypoints. There's the whole thing. You can delete them. So that's all the way through Alpha X-ray. Markers. I didn't set a marker. Don't even see how marker works here. I imagine that's that red thing. I don't know. Might be the one for all I know. That was all set up inside the program. So let's go fly it and see what happens. So this was my first attempt. It didn't tilt the gimbal down. I did there a little bit manually, and the thing just put it right back level. I don't understand it. I'll play with that some more later. Also, you might notice I have changed the ascent speed to 3 feet per second. So we're going up a little slower than we did before. Fine with me to take a little extra time, just not to stress the Mavic Mini. It's a really small, fairly delicate drone. So this is my ascent to 150 feet. Just trying to stay above the trees. Now you can't do a gimbal tilt in a path. I sat and figured on that for a long time. So I had tilted it down a little myself, and then the path started and made it level again. So I tilted it down manually here. And it stayed. So I think you can do that. So now it starts flying that crazy spaghetti trail that we put in the sky. I put in the sky. So the guys were out working on the house today. I put this path together last night. So when I got over here near where I thought would be my corner on this part of the property, I started to manually tilt the gimbal down. And the program hung up. About the time that I got the gimbal straight down. Now I don't know if there's some kind of signal goes back to the processor inside the platform when that gimbal hits 90 degrees as an end stop, and that interrupted the program. And me doing it less than one of the extremes of either 0 or 90 didn't mess with it. I was able to manually turn it, tilt it down. But I just had to take over right here and fly it home. The program seemed to be locked up. The phone still worked. My other program still worked on the phone. But the phone itself, the Dronelink app, locked up, or appeared to be locked up. So I just brought it home and landed it manually. I can't explain it, but that's what happened. So I landed it, figured I still had enough battery, so I shut down the phone, stopped everything, closed everything on the phone, shut down the phone, restarted the phone, restarted the app, and flew again. I also was not using my screen recorder today, just the Dronelink app. So here's that second flight. I kind of stand right inside that door in that shadow when I'm flying. And this time it turned the gimbal down. So again, we're ascending at a much slower speed than we have been in the previous flights. Brand new props on it today, all 8. It's headed for 150 feet. Which I'm beginning to recognize is well above the trees here. You might be able to get down in the 120 feet, 130 foot area. I don't want to get real close to the trees when the hawks, buzzards, whatever come out. I'm not sure what that little positioning was there, but it started the path then, and of course moved the gimbal back up to 0. So I moved it down a little bit and left it alone this time. Just went hands off right here. Verified that the platform was flying the path and said, I'm not going to touch anything this time. I may have even accidentally jostled one of the joysticks while I was moving the gimbal to 90 degrees in that last attempt. I can't say. I was not using the screen recorder for the phone here because of 2 failed flights yesterday, 2 mapping missions in the orchard that did not work properly. And they didn't work properly so badly I couldn't even get a coherent video together. I think I did put up one. It was so incoherent I didn't even do a second one. I still have all that data for looking at personally, but it was pitiful what happened yesterday. So this is where I would be over the area that it locked up in last time. It did not lock up this time. Matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, it did not lock up all the way through this path mission. It worked perfectly the second time. So when I can go out and do some missions in an area where if I make a mistake, I'm not in a 100-foot tall tree. These trees aren't really 100-foot tall. It's 100 feet above ground level where I take off, and I take off down in that little hole behind the house. And these trees we're looking at straight ahead right now are on top of the hill on the other side of the house. So there's already 20 feet difference in where they're attached to the ground and where I'm taking off from. So the trees are truthfully probably about 80 feet tall at the most, which is really quite tall. I was surprised. And the woods out behind the new build here, the new house, has one big tall tree in it that seems to be the tallest one around. I'll have to go out there and measure it with the drone one day, and then I'll set altitude that's a safety limit above the tallest tree around here. I still can't see the screen when I'm flying. It's just really... I can see enough to fly. I can't see the controls, the writing on the screen, none of that. Just diabetic cataracts. Not bad enough to do any surgery on for like 10 or 12 years now. There's a streak through the yard there in the front where the landlord came through today. They came up and blew all the leaves off the roof and away from the house again, off the driveway. I imagine soon we'll hear the statement, I really hate to tell you we're going to have to go up on the rent. Then a few seconds later, probably hear, unless we can turn some of this yard work over to you. Which is why I'm letting them do the yard work under the lease until they decide they don't want to do it anymore, and I'll be glad to do it. I don't mind doing it at all. I just need a little knocked off the lease for doing it. Not going to be a turkey about it. Just going to let them bring up possibly taking over some yard work. Or if they just want to raise the rent, I'll bring it up if I have to. Anyway, back to this. So this seems to be flying the path just as pretty as you please. Even the really sharp path turns that I made in it, the platform seems to rotate around them satisfactorily. A little fast there, you see. Not like the destinations were. So, and you can curve the path, as you can see here, and you might have seen on the front screen. But overall, I really thought it did well. I really do think the software basically followed the waypoints in the sky as good as anything I've ever worked with. Ardu Pilot, Ardu Copter. I haven't worked with Ardu Plane yet. Not in an actual mission, everything but. Did a lot of copter flights. Close to 1,000 copter flights probably. Did a lot of roves on the ground with the autopilot before I even did the copter. That was my whole approach plan to this whole thing, like 8 or 10 years ago, 6 or 8 years ago. Found some things from 2012 and 13 and 14, old invoices and stuff. Went back and found some videos from 2012, but couldn't tell how far along I was, because those seemed to pick up when I was doing the Honey Badger, which was my first vertical quad, because Honey Badger was the first frame that ever appeared on the market. That was long before there was pre-built. That was back in the dinosaur days. It's still running the path just as fine as you please. So I did do the rover first with a rock crawler that only goes 2 or 3 miles an hour, so I could catch it if it did anything wrong. And I got the rover working, running any mission I wanted it to run perfectly, and then I built up the Honey Badger and put the same mission I ran with the rover into the Honey Badger and ran it, and it ran fine. And kind of got sidetracked there a little and built what was it? The F450 quad, which was a little more powerful quad with bigger motors, and then I went out and built the hexacopter flame wheel, which was 6 motors, and then I bought a $750 heavy lift kit for the flame wheel, which was 6 really big motors and arm extensions and bigger ESCs, and was able to run 12-inch props on it at that point. I played with all of them, crashed all of them several times, played with them all a lot, running missions, manual flights, whatever, just having fun with them, and had great success. Started building up airplanes to do the final part of autopilots and stuff, and got ready to maiden my first airplane with an autopilot and stalled. We had to move out here. Wasn't until the pandemic came along I actually picked it all back up. I guess I was doing nothing for at least 2 years. I've got an iNav build over there now. I'm going to play with iNav. I've done beta flight. So this is still flying the path just as properly, perfectly as one would like. I'm a little bit close to the edge over here because there's an anchor in the middle of the path you can grab, and you can move the whole shebang over or around wherever you want to. And I did that to move it away from the road out there, which kind of moved it really far onto the back of the property here towards the orchard. We don't rent the orchard. And then straight ahead, you can sort of see it through the V in the trees there. There's another orchard right over there. I think it's a different owner. The woods right behind this house, I think, I'm not sure if it's owned by which orchard. There's about 2-3 acres of woods there. And you can see our house is just situated in this clump of woods right here. Well, thank you, Drone. You just turned on that perfectly as I was talking about this area of the property we rent. So the 2 acres over there where they're building the new house, thank you, Drone. You're doing great. This is 2-3 hours after this flight. That 2 acres over there is basically gone to us now. From the right to the left to the road, I consider that whole slice gone. It's 2 acres of land if you don't consider the elevation from the road down to the drainage ditch, from the drainage ditch up to the top of the hill behind the new house. Technically it's 3 acres because of that not being exactly flat. So that incline actually. So of the 7.5 acres we rent, we're down to 4.5 now. Might be considered to be down to 6.5. I don't know how the land surveys do, if they consider the elevation in the acreage or if it's just a flat plain. And I gathered that information from the mapping mission I did over the property. Maybe I should go back and see what it says for the whole of it. So it's doing all the routes, waypoints, turns, the gimbal's staying down where I put it manually. Couldn't figure out how to do it in the program. They're doing siding on the house today, finishing up his workshop on the other side of the house. I was flying missions. So this is just about the end of this. And then I had to turn the video back on. It shuts the video off when it finishes the path and goes to return to home. And I have to manually turn it back on, so it had risen a little bit. The return to home still set for 200 feet. I need to drop that down. The higher you go, the more wind you get. I still have the 10 foot per second descent velocity in the platform. So it comes down pretty quick. You better be ready for it. You can see there's some limbs from the trees behind the house that stick out into my landing area. But basically there's a big area around the house. All right. Thank you for watching.